What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods coming back at y'all with another episode of the 2 Minute Drill. Thursday, May 13th, man. We got a big topic today. I think it's going to be one a lot of people are going to be interested in. And we did back with my guy B Dub. We did the top three returning quarterbacks in college football. Well, since it's just me today we're going to do the top five returning running backs in college football. And man, this was such a hard list to put together because there were so many running backs that I thought could possibly deserve a spot on this list. And so, there probably are a lot of good backs that aren't on this list, but I think these are the top five just based on last year and some previous years that I just think they are the five best returning running backs. We lost a lot of running back talent to the draft. Najee Harris, Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne. There were a lot of great running backs, even Chuba Hubbard off to the NFL draft. So it really opened up a big void for a lot of these guys to really kind of step into that void. So let's go ahead and kick it off at number five, man. Bijan Robinson, Texas running back, and this kid is just absolutely electric, guys. I mean, he's a former four-star who looks like he might have his breakout sophomore season this year, and now he's playing under one of the best offensive minds in the country. And when I look at this kid and what he can do, I mean, let's be just completely honest here. I mean, he didn't get the early opportunities last year that I thought he deserved, and it showed down the stretch that he probably should have been the featured back for the Longhorns all the way throughout the season. He probably could have helped Texas win some of those early games that they let slip away in, early in the season, but over 700 yards rushing, 4 rushing touchdowns. He averaged over 8 yards per touch, 2 receiving touchdowns, and almost 900 yards from scrimmage. I'm looking at this kid and I'm just blown away with how high his ceiling could be. I mean, he was third in the country and led the Big 12 in rushing yards per carry with over 8 yards per carry. He only ranked 14th in total touches in the Big 12. And so it shows that, he didn't get a lot of carries, but he was third in production and rushing yards for the conference. So it shows that he turned those limited opportunities into yards. And so he was top five in the Big 12 in scrimmage yards too. And it just shows how much potential this kid really has. Bijan probably has, let me just say on this list, one of the highest ceilings. But I think last year he didn't show the, I guess, sample size that some of these other backs on the list showed. And so right now he has to stick at five. But I think this could be the year to shine under Sarkisian in this new offense with a new young quarterback being broken in for the Longhorns. I expect them to lean on Robinson often and early. And I just want to say this before we get further to the list. I think the Big 12 might be the strongest conference in terms of running back talent, and Bijan's going to be one of the best of the bunch. I expect that this will be the year he's going to introduce himself fully to the full college football world. But due to that small sample size, like I said, he falls at five for me right now. Now at four, this is a kid who, if I would have told you was on this list I don't know how many people know about this kid or who he is, but it's Deuce Vaughn, Kansas State. If I gave you just his measurables, you probably would be like, how is he even an option for this list? But 5'5", 170, but he spent all year making Big 12 defenses look silly, making defenders look silly, and keeping defensive coordinators from getting a full night's rest before they had to face him. It gives K-State fans a throwback to another undersized running back and Darren Sproles back in the day. Vaughn rushed for over 600 yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, had over 400 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns there. He averaged over 5 yards per carry, but the whopping stat for me is this over 17 yards per catch he averaged this year. He led the Wildcats in rushing and receiving this year and just is built in that true mold that we're used to seeing now, in which running backs can catch the ball in the backfield. They can make plays in so many different ways. And so I think Deuce Vaughn is just amazing. And he did this without a starting quarterback in Skylar Thompson. So it put a lot of pressure on him and allowed defenses to kind of, you know, target him per se. And he was top five in the Big 12 in rushing yards, yards per reception, yards from scrimmage, and touchdown from scrimmage. Only Vaughn and Michael Carter, the UNC running back, who was a third-round pick this year, were graded 85 or higher by Pro Football Focus in both rushing grade and receiving grade. So it shows the immense talent this kid really, really has. And Deuce might be small, but he's a deadly option for the Wildcats. And next year, I think he probably could be a real contender for Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year because of what he can do on the ground and because of what he can do through the air. You see in the highlight tape playing right there, he just has that breakaway speed. He has that shiftiness to make defenders miss. And so for me, I think he can make a run at being the Big 12 all-purpose yard leader and probably could be the rushing leader depending on what the scheme lends itself to be. But for right now, Deuce Vaughn's number 4. I think he's a bigger receiving threat than Bijan Robinson. I think he did it for a longer period of time last season, and I really think Deuce Vaughn is one of the most underrated, but I think he goes at 4 here for me in terms of returning running back talent in college football. And this next player also, I told you, the Big 12 is dominating this list for me. This player opted out last year, but I think he could be the best running back in the country by the end of the year. Kennedy Brooks from Oklahoma. He opted out due to COVID. He's the only player on my list that did not play a snap, but he's primed for a huge 2021 season this year. And he's shockingly one of the most experienced running backs on this list. He played number 24 games his first 2 years in Norman. Him and Trey Sermon were primed to be the biggest 1-2 punch in the country. We all know Sermon left, but Eric Gray from Tennessee transfers in, and Gray and Brooks are primed to be that 1-2 punch in 2021. Over 2,000 yards rushing, man. 18 touchdowns, averaged over 7.5 yards per carry over the first 2 seasons at Oklahoma. And for me, when I look at him, he led the Big 12 in yards per attempt in 18 and 19. He ranked third in the entire country in 18, while he averaged almost 9 yards per carry. He was top 5 in rushing yards in the Big 12, top 5 in rushing touchdowns in 2018 in a split duty system. No, this stat just kind of blew my mind. No FBS running back throughout the 2018 or 2019 season had a higher average of 10-plus yard runs or more. Brooks was averaging a run of 10-plus yards more, 10 yards or more, 23% of his touches. 23% of the time he got the ball in his hands, he was taking it for a first down or more. You see in the highlights, he doesn't have that elite breakaway speed, but he knows how to hit the hole. He reads defenses so well, and he's able to put his foot in the ground and go get some yardage, go get a big gain. And I think if Oklahoma, they really didn't have that running back pop out until Ramondre Stevenson came back late in the season for them. Brooks, though, was arguably one of the most talented running backs in the country those first 2 seasons, and I think is primed to have a huge chance to regain his spot as the top running back in the country. And for me, I think a lot of people are going to have questions on whether players who opted out, not just Brooks, but everyone, are they going to be able to pick up right where they left off? Or are they going to have a little bit of growing pains? They're going to have to get back in the flow of things. Brooks has the potential to be number one on this list by the end of the season, but right now, due to his opt out, I think it dropped him down about 2 spots for me. But I think he's immensely talented, and Kennedy Brooks is going to be a name that you are going to want to remember if you are watching Big 12 football. And this Oklahoma team's loaded, man. We talked about them being real national championship contenders. Well, Kennedy Brooks is a key piece to that puzzle. And so now we finally leave the Big 12. We're not done with the Big 12, but we are leaving the Big 12, headed to the SEC. And this one, kind of personal for me. I got a lot to say about this kid, but the second best running back in the country to me right now is Tank Bigsby, Auburn. And this one hits differently for me, man. I don't think any freshman running back flashed more potential than Bigsby did last year, who played against a below average offensive line, didn't have much help in terms of quarterback play, but he still found a way to win SEC Freshman of the Year. He fought some injuries down the stretch. He kind of limited his production down toward the end of the season. But one look at the tape playing right here beside me is that it shows how much he just really showed. I mean, look at how he's making people miss, running through tackles, the explosion. He was greatly underutilized by Malzahn. He began to carve his role out through the middle of the season, but then he gets hurt in the Tennessee game. He rushed for over 830 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, averaged over 6 yards per carry, also had 300 kick return yards, and he was top 5 in the SEC in pretty much all those categories: rushing yards, yards per attempt, kick return yards, yards per return. He ranked 5th in the country. This is an important stat. He ranked 5th in the country in wins above average for a non-quarterback. So he was a top 5 player outside quarterbacks in determining whether his team won the ball game or not. And I looked at the in-depth stats. When Bigsby received 20 plus carries, he rushed for over 130 yards in every one of them, and Auburn was 3-0 in those games. When Bigsby received less than 15 carries, he didn't hit the 100-yard mark in any of these. Auburn was 2-3. So it was a huge difference in terms of what Bigsby was able to do when he got the ball. And I think they put away the ball in Bo Nix's hand way, way too much. And when I look at how he was playing before he got hurt, he was the 3rd highest graded running back by Pro Football Focus, right there behind Javonte Williams, who honestly was a borderline first-round pick. He was an early second-round pick. And Khalil Herbert out of Virginia Tech, who also got drafted a few weekends ago. So he was 3rd in the country already before his injury. And so Bigsby, I think, is going to benefit from a new offense under Mike Bobo and Brian Harsin, and hopefully he'll be receiving a little bit of O-line help that really lacked at times, to be completely honest with y'all. That the offensive line was atrocious. I think he showed his real value in the spring game. You saw the highlight from the spring game. He put his foot in the ground, made the safety look silly, and absolutely put on a show. I think he might be, this is crazy, one of the best Auburn running backs that they've had in some time. I think Bigsby has the potential to really compete for a Doak Walker this year for the Auburn Tigers. And I think if you listen to our podcast, you pay attention to college football, I think there's only one player that it can be on this list at number 1, and that's Breece Hall, Iowa State, man. I mean, the amount of disrespect, let me just say this, the amount of disrespect that I have seen put on Hall's name is getting a little bit out of hand, in my opinion. I mean, how does the leading rusher for the entire country last year in the 2020 season not rank as the best returning running back in 2021? Pro Football Focus had him ranked 6th in their list, which absolutely blows my mind. I don't know how you even make a sensible argument for that. He's been a 2-year starter, and I think he's shown both those years that he should be considered one of the best, if not the overall best running back in the country. This past year, he was the Big 12 Player of the Year, a consensus All-American, and over 2 years, man, this is his 2-year stats. over 2,400 yards rushing, 30 rushing touchdowns, 400 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns on those, over 5 yards per carry in just his first 2 seasons. He led the Big 12 and NCAA in rushing yards last year. He led the Big 12 and was second in the NCAA in rushing touchdowns last year. He finished sixth in the Heisman voting. He was third in rushing grade, according to Pro Football Focus, for running backs who had 50 or more carries where they experienced contact behind the line of scrimmage. This is crazy to me because it shows he was getting hit in the backfield. He was getting hit early, and he was making plays. He's able to. He doesn't look like a crazy athletic type of guy, but he is. He can make players miss. He can get in the open field, get downfield. He doesn't have elite speed, in my opinion, but he makes it work. I think overall he's the best overall running back in the country. He dominated this season. He showed the big playability, and he just is that every down back that no one had an answer for. I mean, going into Iowa State games, teams were like, okay, we got to stop Breece Hall. They didn't have an answer for him. He literally every single week delivered. He had like a streak of, I think it was like 9 consecutive games with over 100 yards rushing. I mean, this guy was the show in Ames. And listen, for me, he took the crown of running back one this past season. And I think unless you go to Ames and take it from him, he should be the top returning running back in the country until proven otherwise. Why wouldn't Breece Hall be the number one running back in the country? I think this year he should make a run for that Doak Walker. He kind of got it stolen from him, in my opinion, last year just because of the hype around Alabama. But I think he can make a run at that Doak Walker. I think he'll be one of the leading Heisman contenders in terms of running backs. And right now, I don't see anyone taking the crown from him until someone in the Big 12 shows me they can stop Breece Hall from running the ball down their throats. So, guys, let me know who is on y'all's list. We have Bijan Robinson at 5, Deuce Vaughn at 4, Kennedy Brooks at 3, Tank Bigsby at 2, and Breece Hall at 1. Let me know your top 5. If you have an opinion on one of these guys, comment below as well. I love interacting with the fans in the comments, so make sure to comment your opinion below. You can DM us and let us know what we got wrong, what was correct. We appreciate all the support, man. Give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast now to enter yourself in the 200 subscriber giveaway. And of course, man, if you just want audio, make sure to go subscribe to us across any and all podcast streaming platforms, man. We appreciate all y'all support. Guys, we ordering the merch. The merch is on its way to us today. We can't wait to turn it around and get it out to all the people who won our 100 subscriber giveaway, man. We got some awesome merch. You know, we might have to even post some proofs, but we're getting everyone who's getting some merch to send us some pictures of them in it. That way y'all know what y'all are missing out on, man. So make sure to subscribe, join the Bluebloods ASAP, man. We got a lot of big things coming down the pipeline. But guys, for myself, the 2-minute drill, and the Bluebloods, we are out.